very early on in 2020, my tags expired on my car. For those of you who may not be aware of what that means, it basically just means that like the state that I live in no longer recognizes my car as being legal to drive. So you have to get these tags renewed basically every single year. So they expired right around the same time that COVID started. Now, there are ways of having tags mailed to yourself, but I was just too stressed out at the time. I was currently at that time doing college in a community college, and I was also working full time, wow, nice voice crack, at my job. So I just kind of put it off. And it took me almost half a year to get those tags renewed, which ended up costing me $100 in late fees. So that was just a really stupid situation. There was a point where I owed money to the community college that I had graduated from. And during my gap semester, I actually didn't pay it because I was trying to apply for some scholarships to kind of reduce the amount, but I never did. I just let the money sit there. And what ended up happening was I ended up owing, I think, hundreds of more dollars in fees because I hadn't paid it quickly enough, almost to the point where it almost got sent to a collection agency. Over the past few months, my room has been pretty messy. I have been very busy, in my defense, doing a whole lot of other things that are more important to me than keeping my room spotless. But it took me actually finishing the semester before I felt like I had the mental energy to be able to clean my room. There have been points where I had gym memberships that I just never actually utilized and took advantage of. I just wouldn't go to the gym. Even if I had ample free time, and even if I was even bored, I just wouldn't go out and actually take the time to actually go and work out. These are all examples, small ones really, of mental blocks that have happened within my life. I have plenty of more examples, but we don't need to share every single thing that I suck at today. But it's something that can really impact a person. I would say that a mental block typically comes from an anxiety response. You build up a problem so large in your mind that it feels like it's impossible to tackle. And the bigger the problem is, the harder it's going to be to tackle it because there's so much you have to work on in order to get that problem to be solved. In an example of the college example, where I owed a lot of money, there was a lot of intricacy involved with trying to get that fixed. I actually did not get it resolved. I just ended up paying outright because I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. But whenever you have anxiety, those big problems feel twice as large as they actually are, which sucks because they're already big enough problems as it is. And throughout my life, especially in the last few years, I've been trying to develop strategies to overcome these mental blocks because they really grossly impact my life. It's impacted my relationships, it's impacted my day-to-day happiness, it's increased or decreased my depression depending on how successful I am in dealing with it. And it all kind of goes back to a central theme that I talk about pretty often on this channel, which is momentum, but not in the same aspect that you'd expect. When I talk about momentum and exercise, I talk about doing 1 or 2 push-ups a day and building up from there. But if you're having problems with doing an assignment that's due, doing push-ups isn't going to help you, and it's really hard to open up the Google Docs to actually start working on that project. So I actually have an alternative strategy to make momentum work for you, but not in the way you'd expect. So let's say that I have a paper due in college, and it's due in the next day. I've done nothing to start this paper, but it's just built up so much in my mind, I can't even open up the Blackboard to actually see what the assignment's about. So what I'll do is I will go and do the dishes, or I will vacuum my room, or I will do some push-ups, whatever it might be. I'm doing something, because generally whenever I'm anxious, I'm sitting in front of my computer screen or my phone screen and I'm watching YouTube videos that don't actually matter and have no value. I'm just trying to put it off in my mind. But if I actually step away from those screens and I have the opportunity to go do something physically and something that's active, and something that's actually building towards something, like doing dishes means I don't have to do them later, doing push-ups means I'm getting a little bit stronger, etc. What I find is that I built up positive momentum towards something, and it helps encourage me to want to work on the paper from that point. Now, this is not something that always works. It kind of is circumstantial. It does depend, especially on external factors like my mood, what other assignments I might also have, whatever it might be. But I found that just by making any kind of positive forward momentum in general, that momentum can be applied to different aspects of my life. So even though I'm only focusing right now on the fitness, that positive momentum in my fitness is actually going to be leading towards my education. Maybe not as much, but it helps me take the first step. It helps me open up the Google Doc, helps me open up Blackboard and the syllabus to see what actually the paper's about. And now that I'm at that point, because I've already started It makes it a lot easier for me to start working on the paper. And I might not finish it that night, but I've started enough to where the next day I'll be easier, more manageable for me to get back in there and work on the paper. Mental blocks are not an easy subject, and my advice isn't really going to apply to every single person. It's just what I found that's worked for me. And there are definitely times still where I have a block that I just can't seem to get over, even by implementing every single strategy that I know. Because oftentimes, if you mix a little bit of depression with a little bit of anxiety, it gets really hard to overcome. Because the depression makes you not want to focus on fixing the anxiety, and the anxiety keeps building, which causes you to become more depressed. And whenever you have those two things mixing together, it is very hard to maintain positive momentum. And thankfully, over the past few months, I've been able to maintain that and keep it going. But it's one of those things where if you're not constantly working at it, it's very easy to fall. And it hit me pretty hard last week whenever I was stuck working full time while having all these assignments and finals due. I was getting really overwhelmed and frustrated, and I let things kind of fall away a little bit. I had to hang out with my girlfriend half as much as I used to. I had to basically put off any kind of household work because I just could not focus on it. I barely exercised the entire week, which causes other issues, like leading to me feeling less worthwhile, less fit. I get less fulfillment whenever I'm not hanging out with my girlfriend. All these things start decreasing because I'm trying so hard to focus on these other aspects of my life. So there's a lesson here somewhere when it talks about positive momentum, because again, like I've mentioned 100 times already, if you can start building that, even just a small amount, it's really hard to lose the momentum. Whenever you start building negative momentum and go the opposite direction, it's really hard to break out of that as well. Start with a few simple steps. Do something really small, but that's constructive towards what you're actually looking to do. And then that should help push you towards doing the things that really matter. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a like. If you want to see more, subscribe, and do not forget to keep it casual.